Let me tell you about Marcus. Marcus is 34 years old. He makes $95,000 a year. That puts him comfortably in the top 30% of American earners. He has a decent apartment, a leased BMW, a Netflix account, and a Chipotle habit he's been meaning to cut back on since 2019. He's also got about $1,400 in his savings account and a vague sense of dread every time he opens his banking app. Marcus is not irresponsible. Marcus is not lazy. Marcus works hard. He got promoted twice, and by most external measures, he's winning. So why does he feel broke? And more importantly, why does almost everyone around him feel the exact same way? I'm going to answer that today, because this isn't just Marcus's problem. According to a 2023 Federal Reserve report, nearly 37% of Americans said they would struggle to cover an unexpected $400 expense. Not $4,000, $400. And these are not all low-income households. A significant chunk of them are people earning six figures. That number should stop you cold, because it means the problem isn't income, it's something else entirely. Here's the thing. We've been sold a deeply broken idea about how financial progress actually works, and most people don't realize it's happening to them until they're 10 years deep into a salary they were supposed to make it on. Let's get into it. When you're young and earning maybe $35,000 a year, you understand scarcity. Money is tight, you know it, and you make decisions accordingly. You pack lunch, you don't book spontaneous flights, you have a baseline awareness that every dollar has a job. Then something shifts. You get a better role, the salary climbs, $55K, then $75K. Then maybe you crack six figures, and you feel it, that moment where you think, okay, now things are going to be different. And for a few months, they are. The anxiety loosens. You upgrade a few things. You stop checking the price before ordering at restaurants. You deserve it, right? You earned this. But here's what nobody warns you about. Your lifestyle doesn't just grow with your income. It races ahead of it. There's a concept economists call lifestyle inflation, and it's not about being reckless. It's about being human. When your income goes up, your reference point for normal shifts. The apartment that felt fine at $40K starts feeling cramped at $80K. The car that worked perfectly well suddenly feels embarrassing at industry events. Your friends are in a certain bracket now. Your colleagues take certain vacations. You start spending to match the life that feels appropriate for someone at your level, not the level you're actually building toward. This is where it gets interesting, because this isn't a moral failure. This is psychology. Psychologists call it hedonic adaptation. The human brain is wired to normalize. Whatever you have right now will start to feel ordinary within about 3 to 6 months. The new apartment, the raise, the nicer phone. It all becomes the baseline. And once something is the baseline, you stop feeling grateful for it and start feeling entitled to things slightly above it. So you earn more, you spend more, and the gap, the actual gap between what comes in and what builds wealth, stays the same or it gets smaller. Now let me show you what this looks like with real numbers, because I think this is where most financial content fails people. It stays abstract. Let's not do that. Say you're earning $90,000 gross. After federal and state taxes, Social Security, and Medicare, let's call your take-home around $65,000 annually. That's about $5,400 a month hitting your bank account. Sounds solid. Let's see where it goes. Rent or mortgage in a mid to large city, $1,600 to $2,000. Car payment plus insurance, $700. Groceries, $400. Subscriptions, phone, utilities, $300. Going out, dining, entertainment, $500. Gym, personal care, miscellaneous, $200. That's $3,700 to $4,100 before you've done anything extraordinary, before a medical bill, a flight home for the holidays, a work conference, a birthday dinner for your best friend. You've got maybe $1,300 left, and if you have student loans, which the average borrower carries about $37,000 of according to Education Data Initiative, you might be looking at another $350 to $500 a month. Now you're at $800 to $900 of breathing room. And here's the trap. $800 feels like savings, but it's not really savings. It's the buffer that disappears every time life happens, and life happens constantly. So at the end of the month, Marcus, our $95,000 a year guy, is technically moving forward, but it feels like running on a treadmill. The speed increases, but the scenery never changes. You might be thinking, okay, so the solution is just to spend less.
Obvious. Budget better, skip the lattes, all that stuff. But I want to push back on that, because I think it's the wrong frame entirely. The latte thing is the distraction. If Marcus cuts his $6 coffee every workday, he saves about $1,500 a year. That's real money, don't get me wrong, but it's not the variable that changes his trajectory. Not even close. The variables that actually move the needle are invisible. They're structural, and they're almost never discussed in the just be more disciplined conversation.
The first one is the timing of investment. This one is brutal in its simplicity. If Marcus invests $500 a month starting at 34 and earns a 7% average annual return, historically reasonable for a diversified index fund, he'll have roughly $620,000 by age 65. That's not nothing. But if he'd started at 24, same $500 a month, same return, he'd have $1.37 million, more than double. The decade of delay costs him $750,000, not because he spent it, because he waited. That's not a budgeting problem. That's a structural timing problem, and no amount of skipping avocado toast closes that gap. The second invisible variable is what I'd call the illusion of the net worth proxy. Most Americans measure financial health by income and possessions. If you make good money and you have nice things, you feel wealthy, and others perceive you as wealthy. But net worth is a completely different metric. It's what you own minus what you owe. And for a lot of high earners, that number is embarrassingly small. Vanguard's How America Saves report found that the median 401k balance for people in their 40s is around $48,000. The median, meaning half of all Americans in their peak earning years have less than that saved for retirement. People who've been working for 20 years, people earning decent salaries. That's not a statistical edge case, that's the norm. And the reason is that visible consumption, the car, the apartment, the wardrobe, feels like progress. Compound interest in a retirement account feels like nothing. You can't drive compound interest, you can't Instagram it, so the brain doesn't reward saving the same way it rewards spending. This is the core psychological trap. Spending gives you feedback, immediate, social, sensory feedback. Saving gives you a number on a screen that looks the same whether it's $4,000 or $40,000 until suddenly, 20 years later, it doesn't. There's also a third variable that almost nobody talks about, and it's one of the sneakiest: scope creep in financial obligations. When Marcus was 28, he had one credit card and a student loan. At 34, he's got the car lease, a card balance he rolls over monthly, a furniture financing plan he forgot he signed up for, and a gym membership he uses occasionally. None of these individually are catastrophic, but together they represent what I'd call a debt surface area, a wide, flat layer of financial obligations that quietly drain cash flow every single month without ever feeling like an emergency. It's not one big hole, it's 100 tiny leaks. And the tricky thing about tiny leaks is that you don't notice them until you're trying to figure out where your money went, and you simply cannot account for it. Most people I've spoken with who feel broke on good salaries, it's almost always this: not one catastrophic decision, a slow accumulation of small commitments that each seemed individually reasonable. So what's the actual shift here? What changes this? It's not discipline in the traditional white-knuckle sense, it's architecture. The people who build wealth on average salaries, and they exist, they're more common than you'd think, they don't have more willpower than you. They've designed their finances so that the right behavior is automatic and the wrong behavior requires effort. Payroll goes in, investment contribution comes out first before they see it. The savings account is at a different bank with a 2-day transfer delay, which is just annoying enough that they don't dip into it impulsively. The credit card gets paid in full on auto pay. The retirement account gets bumped 1% every time they get a raise. They've made wealth building the path of least resistance, and they've made impulse spending slightly harder. Not impossible, just slightly harder. It sounds simple, and it is simple, but simple is not the same as easy, because it requires confronting one uncomfortable truth first, that how much you earn is far less important than the gap between what comes in and what gets put to work. Marcus earns $95,000. If he saves and invests $1,000 a month and actually leaves it alone, he's building something real.
If he earns $120,000 but inflates his lifestyle to match, he's running faster on the same treadmill. The number on your offer letter is not your financial destiny. The system you build around that number is. Here's where I want to leave you. The reason most Americans feel broke on good salaries is not a character flaw. It's not laziness and it's not stupidity. It's the collision of three things: a psychological system wired to normalize and want more, a financial culture that rewards visible consumption over invisible accumulation, and a structural delay in investment that compounds silently until it's almost too late to catch up. The awareness itself changes something. When you understand that your brain is going to adapt to every raise you get, you can plan for it before it happens. When you understand that your debt surface area is the actual enemy, not the one big expense, you can start patching the leaks systematically. When you understand that time in the market isn't a cliche but a mathematical reality, starting today becomes obviously better than starting when you feel ready. You're probably never going to feel ready. That's the other thing nobody says out loud. The feeling of financial readiness itself is a moving target because the brain adapts, because the baseline shifts, because there's always one more thing to sort out first. Start anyway. Automate it. Shrink the debt surface. Let time do the work you can't. Marcus is going to be fine, but only if he stops waiting for the salary that finally feels like enough and starts building the system that makes enough irrelevant.